Welcome to the FMCG Guys, the podcast that dives into the innovation, strategy, and trends shaping consumer goods and retail in Europe and beyond.
Welcome to the FMCG Guys podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Torres, and recording today from Shoreditch, London, from Amazon Web Services offices. So if you're listening to this, most of our audience is an audio audience. You can watch this on YouTube following the link on your show notes. And if you're watching us, hello. So thanks to the whole AWS team for their support in this episode, which actually is part of a series of episodes, which we'll be doing this year. To highlight some of the most exciting technological capabilities that are being developed in the consumer goods and retail world right now. AWS is Amazon's cloud business, which supports consumer goods and retail companies advance in commerce based on their 30 plus years experience being the leader in digital commerce. I think Amazon comes without any introduction. Everybody knows what they do and what they're good at. So today we're going to speak about one of the hottest areas of advancement in technology in the industry right now, which is GenAI. One of the most, I think, exciting, but also in some way intriguing or mysterious areas of the advancement. So we'll be speaking with a company who was recently, few months ago on the podcast, the Very Group, on how they've leveraged AWS's broadest and deepest set of cloud and analytics capabilities. So today we'll speak with no other than Michelle Williams about how the Very Group is advancing GenAI capabilities. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Daniel. How are you today?
Thanks for joining me.
You're welcome.
Coming down from Liverpool, I've heard you've had an eventful train trip down.
Yes, it's been eventful, but I'm here now. I'm happy to be here.
So thanks for joining me. And yeah, you're the second guest of the Very Group. I don't know if you saw, we had Tom Golden late last year. We spoke about a very different topic, retail media.
Oh, yes.
So
very hot topic at the Very Group at the moment.
And interestingly, it was also an in-person episode, which we recorded at the Retail Media Summit in October. So as I told you before, most of our episodes are recorded by Zoom and we only publish the audio. But Tom and you have been brave enough to do it in person, exposing your own image as well to our audience.
It's always good to be here and to get the Very Group out there in the industry and share what we've been doing with AWS.
Excellent. So people that will have listened to the episode with Tom will know about the Very Group, but it would be great if you could tell us a bit about the company, what you do. Also because actually our number one country in our audience is the UK, but the majority is not, so it would be good. And I know that you're expanding internationally, so to tell us a bit more about the group.
Yes, so the Very Group, for those that don't know, is a UK online pure retailer. We're one of the leading UK online pure play e-tailers in the UK. We have three brands. We have Very and Littlewoods and Very.Island. So our international arm is the Irish arm. Mm-hmm. Very and Littlewoods have been around for over 100 years, started in 1890, so we're a very legacy company. A lot of people will know around in the UK around catalogues and catalogue shopping, and we've evolved a lot since then from the catalogue companies that started in 1890 to now being a pure online retailer. Yeah,
it's very interesting how like a company, as you said, a legacy company from the 19th century is now an online pure player, no? It seems like very...
It's been a huge evolution and we're even continuing to evolve now with the introduction of AI and new technologies. It's a constantly changing landscape.
And I think that you're pretty unique as well in terms of being a pure player, because there's like grocery pure players, there's like category specialist pure players, but you guys are more like a high street / department store type of product offering, no?
Yes, we're one of the only department stores purely online. So we did used to have high street stores with the Littlewood shops, but they closed down quite a few years ago when we focused on becoming pure e-player. But yes, we are a department store. We don't have grocery arms, so we'll sell multiple brands across fashion and home and living categories.
So the main categories that you're acting in right now are fashion and home goods?
Yes, there are two main areas. So we've got multiple fashion brands and our own fashion brands that we have as well. And then, yes, electrical, garden furniture. So anything you can think of from a home and electrical point of view, we also.
Awesome. And how long have you been in the company?
23 years.
Oh my God, wow.
Yes, so a long time. So I've seen a lot of changes.
Yeah.
Always in the data space.
Yeah.
But yes, for 23 years.
Wow. Yeah, you've seen changes in the business, and obviously you've seen changes in the data space.
Yes,
right?
yes,
I think
very
it's
much so.
gone a long way. Well, I don't know if you know, my background is actually, and that's how I ended up doing a podcast in consumer goods. It's in recruitment.
Ah.
And of course, for me, that companies didn't change people was bad, but I always said that companies that have people with a long tenure, it's always a good sign that it's a company with a decent culture.
Yeah, I mean, the Very Great has a great culture, and the reason I've been there so long is because of the change as well. My role has never been the same. The company's not been the same. We're such a big company that it's felt like I've constantly changed and got new roles, and so I don't feel stagnant at all, and the people are the best people to work with.
Yeah, and it's one of the few companies in retail and consumer goods based in Liverpool as well, which is
Yes,
an
yes.
interesting
There's a few in the Northwest, but we're
yeah.
the only
But
one in
Liverpool per se
yes.
is not that.
Yeah, and we've had a long history in Liverpool. We've always
Oh
been,
yeah?
Yeah.
Where does it come from?
So Littlewoods originally started with the Moores brothers when they had the catalogues and the pools companies, and then we merged with Gus and Kay's, who are Manchester-based. So we've always been Northwest-based companies.
Okay, proudly Northwest.
Proudly Northwest.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, what is your role in the company?
So my role in the company, I'm data product owner. So as I said, I've always had a role within data. So I started off as an analyst and moved into more MI and data science, and then I evolved into the data product owner. So my role is kind of a bridge between the business and the data space, managing complex needs of the company. So that might be anything from a generative AI initiative all the way to managing report requests, etc. But really understanding and translating between the business what they want and translating that to our data scientists or our data platform engineers or our MI specialists. So really creating that bridge and owning and maintaining some of the data platforms and the data products that we have within the Very Group. We've got such a vast amount of data across multiple, because we're not only a retail company, but we're also a financial services company. So this amazing wealth of data and huge data asset.
Yeah, I think that when I was walking here, I think I saw a poster on the street
Yes.
about like the financial services arm of the Very Group. So
We are one of the only retailers with a financial service arm, and that makes us a great offering to our customers to be able to offer not just the products, but also the financial services.
And fascinating from a data standpoint,
Yes.
I'm sure. From that data lens that you're coming from, how did you become involved with the AI initiatives?
Data is such a wealth, and we've got so much data. And how we unlock that and use from an AI perspective is where we really started. So AI became a hot topic around the world, the industry. Everybody wanted to understand how AI could be unlocked, specifically generative AI. AI itself has been around for many, many years. We've used it within the company for 20 years plus. In terms of predictive modeling and forecasting, we've always had AI from that, but then the evolution of AI and generative AI coming on board, we wanted to look at how could we potentially use it and get on the journey. AWS approached us with some partnerships to look at how we could work together on some proof of concepts to work on our AI journey and look at use cases that we had in the business to be able to move forward our AI strategy.
That's awesome. And I think that, linking again data to AI, obviously it's a conversation that we've had on the podcast multiple times. And I think that there's a consensus that you can't really do AI, predictive modeling, GenAI, without having your data in place, no?
Data is the foundation of AI. Without that, then, and that's why I got involved from a data point of view rather than it being led from a business point of view.
And I think that even like as a normal user of AI solutions out there, if you can see that the model doesn't work if the data is not in place. I mean, the most basic example is that AI is still not that good at, when you ask them about recent events, they don't answer because they don't have the data introduced into them, right?
Yeah, you need a huge amount of data to be able to feed into the models, feed into the training. If you don't have that, then your predictions, your what it generates is not going to be accurate. So you need that vast amount of data to be able to make it the best it can be.
And just since we're going to talk about it, how would you define GenAI? And maybe even like differentiating it from like, modeling and the other more, could we call it legacy AI?
Yeah, when we talk about AI in general, so a lot of people, when we talk about AI in the industry, people think it's very much the new AI that they're seeing. That they don't realize that AI has been around for so long. Than the legacy AI, we see that more as the forecasting, so predicting how many units we're going to sell. We're using those kind of models, looking at customers and understanding kind of what type of customers they are. Using our data scientists are great at the legacy AI, using modeling techniques. That when we think about generative AI, the way we look at it in the business, I mean, it's transforming the way that industries are working. Very much the way I see it is more that creative element of it. So can we use it to create imagery? Can we use it to create content? Can we use it to summarize? So it's taking more, not specifically the data points that we've always used of the very base, the more structured data, but looking at unstructured data, your text, your pictures, etc., and translating that into data and creating content from there.
Was there like a certain catalyst that was like, that made you guys say, okay, we need to like really go hard into Gen AI?
I think the catalyst was very much the industry, and the way the catalyst that everybody had was AI, this new thing that's coming, and so everybody wanted to jump onto the bandwagon, should I say, of what can AI unlock, how can we really use AI to drive our strategy. What we did at the Very Group was very much look at how can we use it pragmatically rather than trying to jump onto the bandwagon and go, let's just do something. How can we use it to create something fun and not adding value just because we want to create something that's on generative AI? We really looked at it from an adding value point of view. Mm-hmm. It might not be super sexy, should I say, but it's creating efficiencies and it's not forward-facing for the customer yet, but we really wanted to take that pragmatic approach of how we do that.
It may not be something that like off the bat of like when there was that boom, you were already like creating all these images with AI and so on, but it's maybe more like a thoughtful exercise, thinking of how like you can integrate it in your broader like strategy, Yes. And I guess that you're seeing more the results now than maybe when it was like very on trend 2 years ago, no?
Yeah, we very much looked at it from how can we enable things with AI, and I think because we've taken that approach, we are seeing things come to fruition now, whereas I think
not easy to do that. There was a lot of pressure to like.
There was a lot of pressure.
Take things out with AI.
Yeah, there was a lot of pressure, but we and I'm not saying we were successful from the off. It took 6 months to be able to stabilize ourselves of understanding what is AI, how can we use it. Yeah. But because we took more of a considered approach, we have been successful in getting some generative AI out there.
How do you see Gen AI like fitting into your like overall strategy of like digital? I don't know if digital transformation, because you're already digital first, but digital, like. I mean, I think that digital obliges us to like be constantly advancing and evolving, no? Like how do you see Gen AI fitting into the whole strategy?
Like I say, so from a strategic point of view, yes, we are digital first and we're on a digital transformation journey, even though we've been on our digital transformation journey evolving as a company
since the 19th century.
Yeah, we're not shy of transforming. And it's looking at how AI can help us enable that strategy rather than having a specific AI strategy that's all about AI first. It's looking at the strategy and the digital transformation that we've got and how we embed AI. So generative AI within the digital strategy, it's going to be a great asset, and we've already got the data, a huge data asset. So very much from a data strategy point of view, we're looking at AI and how that's going to help us unlock some of that data that we've got. Mm-hmm. We've got over 4 million customers. We have over nearly 2 million visits on our websites every day. We're not short of data, but it's how do we really use AI to unlock some of the power of that data.
And obviously you're a retail business. Yes. Is there a way that you like align those like retail objectives, which is customer acquisition, selling more, but also like, having the right brands and presenting them in the right way with that Gen AI element?
Yes, so for all of our strategic objectives that we've got, we will look at what's the best way to deliver them. Mm-hmm. There are a couple that we're looking at the moment that we're looking at maybe using AI to help that. So very much we've got ones where we're looking at how do we create efficiencies within the business, be that sustainability, how can we really drive our sustainability agenda by using AI to support on that, how can we create efficiencies in our marketing campaigns by using AI. So we're looking throughout the business, not just from a retail point of view, but from
so it's not so much here's like this array of GenAI solutions, how do we plug it into the business, more like we have this business challenge, which sustainability wouldn't be the usual suspect when you think about AI. How can, apart from like the other ways that you would see it, AI is one of the technologies that you would consider to get that objective done, no?
Yes. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
And then I think that similar to this, like there's just so much noise in terms of like Gen AI solutions, like things that seem like they will completely transform your business, and I'm sure they're legit very good solutions. But how do you also, I know it's not entirely up to you, but how do you evaluate each AI solution, like if it will be feasible for your business or not? And how does that like vetting, buying process look like?
Yeah, so we have, with any of our strategic objectives, AI is no different. We'll go through the same process of looking at what is the solution, what's the cost, what's the scalability of it, etc. So for each solution that we come up with, specifically with AI, we look at scalability. That's a big piece of a lot of the proof of concepts we do. They're very successful, but can we scale to the level that we need to do? We'll look at the cost element of it. We'll look at what value is it going to create? What's our return on the investment? So we approach AI solutions just like any other solution that we'd be looking to implement, really.
I guess for you it's kind of natural because you've always been on a part of the business that's really evolving, but it has to be complicated as well when you go into unexplored territory, no? Because you don't really have like, it's not like, I don't know, buying like something that's been there for a long time, like procuring plastics or something like that, which has happened for decades. You're like buying something that hasn't kind of been proven yet, which must be interesting, no?
It's interesting and it is complex. So the difference with the AI solutions that we're looking at is, have we got the foundations? Have we got the right architecture in place? Because there's lots of amazing companies out there that are bringing us solutions all the time. But it's how do we actually build that into our infrastructure as well, that because we are such a legacy company as well, we've got a great technology infrastructure, but it's how do we make sure we've got that right foundation as well. Yeah.
You have like the good thing that you have that structure, but also the challenge, because then it means that the integration work is more challenging, I imagine.
It can be, yes.
Yeah. And you're one of the people in the AI team, I imagine, in the Very Group. How do you structure, like, how do you split responsibilities? Who takes the decisions? How does that general governance work? Because, you know, when you go into these internal decisions, it means that it's kind of associated with slow decision making, but obviously things are moving so fast that you need to like be efficient internally in order to adopt new technologies, I imagine.
Yeah, so one of the things that really early on, so as the business started to come up with lots of ideas of how we wanted to use AI, because we are such a vast company, there's lots of different teams within the business, and everybody had their own lovely ideas of how they can use AI, and they were all great ideas, but it's how do we make sure that they're all aligned and that we were not having people trying to do things that didn't either fit into our infrastructure or that weren't going to be successful. So something that we early on created was something called the AI Guild. So the AI Guild was formed of people from around the business, so not just data people, not just technology people, but people within our HR. For example, to how can we actually use AI to help our colleagues? People from strategy, how does this work and align to our strategy? People from governance, tech governance, to make sure that we're following the policies. People from security to make sure that we were doing this in a secure way, because we were all learning. People from marketing, people from retail, people from financial services. So we really created a guild that had covered the entire business, so that we were all working together on the same journey, and that we had that governance and structure and security around it as well, and just making sure that we all knew what each other were doing, so we weren't working against each other, but working with each other as well.
And you're part of that guild?
I am part of that guild,
And how has it been so far? Like,
so the guild has, I say we probably created it about 18 months ago. And what has naturally happened, so it was needed at the start because we were all on that learning journey of what is AI. We have since put policies in place. We've rolled out different technologies around the business. We've had an AI conference where the entire business, because it wasn't just about the Guild, it was about how do we educate the entire business as well. So we had an AI conference because everybody was hearing this new buzzword of AI and the fear around AI. So we had a conference about what we were looking at and how we were performing with AI. We also rolled out training across the entire business around AI, what it is and what it isn't, and that introduced the policies. And naturally, as we've evolved on our journey, the Guild, whilst it's still there, we don't formally meet anymore because it's now become more natural and embedded within the business, that there's now people know who to go to. So things have become more embedded, that we don't need that specific focus on from a Guild point of view.
So it's become more like, depending on the department that you're in, you'll buy or not, without necessarily having to go through that initial filter. I guess that you see kind of a pattern of what good looks like and what doesn't, I imagine, no?
Yes, so everyone now knows what the policies are and they know who to go to if they've got a great idea. They know who to engage, that we don't need to kind of have that central team that's evaluating everything.
You mentioned that you also started educating the different departments, because AI can really serve a lot of purposes. You mentioned sustainability, for example, but it can really empower the regular employee to really do their job better, no? How, you mentioned that you did some courses. How did any other aspects of how you trained your workers, your employees, in terms of leveraging AI?
I think we attacked how we spoke to our colleagues in a couple of different ways. So there was around the education of what AI is. We very much wanted that approach of, there was the fear, the ethics of AI. A lot of people were very worried to start off with, is AI going to take my job? Because yes, while we want to use AI to help people within their roles, there's always that fear, and I wouldn't say it's gone away, but this hopefully we've dissipated that with the conference that we had to really educate them of what we're trying to do, why we're trying to do it, and that making sure that ethics led everything that we did on that. We then had the course that we did for the general colleagues around, we launched something called Very GPT, which was our own version of ChatGPT, but in a secure environment so that all of the data remains within our environments. So we educated people around what that is and how they can use that, and different functionalities that we're rolling out across the business. But also educated them about what AI is and what it isn't. That was the general colleagues. And then from, of course, our data colleagues and our technology colleagues, who are very much the ones actually writing the models, running the scripts, they're amazing what they can do with AI and the models that are available. So we looked more about bespoke training for them to go, how do we get them bespoke on Amazon Bedrock, for example. Working with AWS, they kindly trained our machine learning engineers all about Bedrock, and this is many different courses that we've been specific of putting those colleagues on to give them that education. Yeah,
I'm not an expert either through my podcast or in my recruitment career in the technology part of the business. I've been more focused on commercial. But it must have been very interesting of how to upskill people while hiring new capabilities that didn't really exist that much. There must have been a really interesting transformation journey there.
It's a really interesting transformation. The machine learning engineers that we've got there, they're just eager. I mean, everybody wants to know about AI, so they were eager to go and learn and embed. And working with AWS on some of the initiatives that we did, that the partnership we did around, say, we did kind of boot camps where some of the AWS colleagues came and worked with our colleagues, so it was on-the-job training. So that was a really successful way of getting that education up and showing what the power of AI could be.
I think it's a great example of it's just a technology that's evolved so fast and that you really need to you can't do it all internally, right? You have to find the right partners.
And as soon as we've launched something, there's a new model out there that does it 10 times better.
Yeah. So Could you share like your journey of like proof of concept to production of one of like your successful GenAI implementations?
Yes,
So what does it actually look like?
what does it actually look like? So something that we set up in, I think it was September 2023, so quite a long time ago, was something called an AI incubator.
2023, that's like Stone Age, isn't it?
Yeah, feels that way. Something we set up was the AI incubator with AWS. So that had 4 stages. So this was something we wanted to set up because we had all these ideas, and how do we actually work through all these ideas? And traditionally, with anything, any objective we have, we build it, and then quite often they fail because you get quite far down the line before you realise it's going to fail. What the incubator was trying to do was get things through fast and quick to understand, can we scale? Is it something that we want to look at? And it had 4 different stages. So the first stage was preparation. So very much looking at what are we trying to do? What's the, do we have the data? The really critical question of, do we have the data? We've got great ideas, but do we have the data that's underlying that? Have we got the right hypothesis? Can it be scaled? So before we even start really asking those tough questions of, is this going to be successful? We then ran a proof of concept for 12 weeks working with AWS, where we built the one that I'm alluding to is a product descriptions generative AI. So we were looking at how can we use generative AI to write our product descriptions for us. So we've got a team of amazing copywriters, but we've over 100,000 products on our websites. That's a lot of product descriptions to write for them. So it was looking at how do we actually support them by using generative AI to help and write some of those product descriptions for them. So that was the hypothesis we had, that we could use generative AI. So we built a proof of concept that took 8 weeks on ladies' dresses. So can we use this? And it takes the image of the dress and a little bit of data and uses you told me not to use the acronym, so a VQA, Visual Question and Answering Model, that looks at the dress and says, what's the neck type, what's the sleeve length? Wow. And so the AI will then report back, this is a V-neck dress with long sleeves, it's blue, it's mid-length. And then using that data in a large language model, it could write the description for it. So that took 8 weeks to create 100 product descriptions. So very fast timelines, especially in our industry, to do that. The difficult bit, so then the next stage was evaluating that. Was it successful? Can we actually roll this out? What's the value if we roll it out? What's the cost if we roll it out? How do we embed it into the business? And then the final stage would be taking it to production. Taking it to production, of course, is the hardest bit. So the proof of concept probably finished around the January 2024. And it took us to May 2024 to get the first live product descriptions onto our website. But since getting that, and you asked a question earlier around how do you monitor and make sure that what the AI is doing is correct. So we have a human in the loop, so they're checking everything that the AI generates to go, yes, it is a V-neck, it hasn't hallucinated. Had really struggled with zips on backs of dress, thinking they were there or not there. So we built a user interface as well. So while the proof of concept didn't quite go into that element, focused on the AI, it's then how do you operationalize this and make it embedded into your business? So we had to create a user interface for our copywriters to review what is the AI generating, and is it using our tone of voice? How do we want it to present, etc. But we're now live across all of our fashion items.
Wow, so not only women's dresses.
Not only women's dresses, across all of fashion, and we have around 40,000 product descriptions now generated using AI. It's been a long journey, but huge success for the company. We've reduced writing a product description down from 30 minutes down to 2 minutes.
Wow.
So created huge efficiencies within the business. Great exposure for our customers because they now can see every product's now got a description. They know what they're buying, not just having to...
Because before you could it was like impossible to cover everything, no?
Yes.
I imagine. No, it doesn't even sound easy, but like from doing it all manually practically to like being able to like generate all these product descriptions, which is interesting, by the way, because normally when I think about GenAI, it's more like you write something and then you get an image, but here it's the other way around, which makes it even more fascinating. What were like the key technical but also organizational challenges that you faced in this journey?
So from a technical point of view, I think one of the main challenges was using imagery, because we've not used it from a data point of view before. So being able to get that, when we did the proof of concept, we didn't have imagery in our data lake, for example. So it's how can we get the images into our data lake so that we can feed the AI models. So from a technical point of view, that was one of the biggest challenges, was making sure that we had that accessible. And also understanding the process that when's the right time to actually generate that product description, because it's amazing to find out how many people actually touch a product before it goes live on a website, of the merchandisers, the buyers, etc., what the photographers, like when is the right time for us to take all of that data in and understand when is the right time to then hit the button on the AI creating that. So that was the big challenge. One of the other biggest challenges, of course, I wouldn't say it was a challenge actually. We brought the copywriters in from the very beginning of the proof of concept, so they knew what we were doing, they knew why we were trying to do it. Of course, at the beginning there was some fear of, this is going to take my job. So we wanted to make sure that we brought them on the journey so they understood what we were doing and how we were trying to use this, so it could free them up to really use their skills to write the more complex product descriptions that the AI couldn't do. They're amazing, and using them to write a white t-shirt description isn't unlocking their value. We needed them for the more high value products. So.
Yeah, because when you think about it, like, I don't know, when you're doing like any type of like more B2B marketing, which is more like small format, not as mass, you don't want the copywriter to like just describe what you're doing, because anyone could do that. You want the copywriter to actually convey the right messaging, you know? So it's really like, and I think that's the great thing about AI, that it really makes so many jobs much more strategic and interesting, and thinking jobs as well, rather than just like, you know,
and I think
typing jobs.
That was it, is how can we educate them of, we're taking away the pain points that they don't want to do today and bring them on that journey.
So we've talked about like how GenAI has really like transformed, or is transforming probably, because it's work in progress, the Berry Group internally. From the customer experience, from the Berry Group's customer base, how are they benefiting from this transformation?
So hopefully the customer isn't seeing much of what we're doing, because it should be quite effortless from their point of view. From a product description, they're now seeing, of course, more product descriptions live on our website. We have, on our web journey, we have AI embedded in the way that our search functionality works, so they get better returns when they type something in. AI is powering their search options, helping from an SEO point of view, because they're getting more products presented to them when they're looking for imagery products on our websites. We're also looking at how can we actually improve our customer experience in terms of when they're coming to interact with us, so through our contact centres or a chatbot, etc. How can we really use virtual assistants to...
Yeah, that's been pretty big.
Yes.
Like when you have like some issue and you need to resolve it. Before it was horrible when you like call the phone and you had to press buttons, and now like with a chatbot you can get like so much done beforehand. And in terms of like the information on the website, yeah, for sure. I mean, information is power at the end, right? So the more information the buyer can have when taking that purchasing decision, probably like the less margin of error there is also to when you buy the wrong thing or what.
Yes, definitely, and we're certainly on the journey looking from a chatbot point of view of how we work with that, but the main focus from a customer experience has been that purchasing journey and how can we really evolve that for them.
Yeah. And we talked about like how in this transformation with GenAI, you really need to work with the right partners like AWS, for example, to really like accelerate or just do that transformation. How do you approach like selecting those like key external partners for your GenAI journey?
I think we talked about it earlier on around when looking at external partners, it's making sure that, one, they fit into our infrastructure and it's going to be easy to implement, it's the right cost and giving us the right value. Also, from a cultural point of view as well, is really key for us. Working with AWS.
So important.
Yes.
As somebody that's been an external partner of companies, like I think that cultural element, having FaceTime, really getting to know each other. I don't know if at a personal level, but yes, like having like time to work together, because you just need like the degree of trust that you need with a partner is like absolutely important.
It's key to a successful delivery. It kind of takes all of the pain points out of everything. Working with AWS on these proof of concept, it's like we're one team rather than we're paying them to do something.
Yes.
So that is a crucial element of choosing partners.
Totally. And now that you've been in this journey for, you mentioned 18 months, no? Probably 2 years, 18, more like 2 years really. Looking back at that journey, is there anything that you would do differently if you had to start over?
Probably, like I say, it took us 6 months to get probably up to speed from a guild point of view. So I think everybody's probably guilty of quickly running at things rather than walking. It took us a while to settle down and start to look from a walking point of view. Very much focus on the data. Make sure you've got the data in the right place. Again, lots of proof of concept that we looked at could have been successful had we looked at the data first and instead of the other way around of lots of ideas. So really the data is such an asset, and how do you unlock some of that data?
And when you're talking about like looking at that data, what does that actually look like, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so it's making sure that your data is scalable or that it's going to work for you. So is it in the right foundation? Is it in the right infrastructure? Have you got things that are going to be able to integrate to enable you to get that? Or is it going to be AI? Sometimes it's a very complex topic, but actually is only a very small sliver of an implementation. Actually embedding it and integrating it into your business and making sure you've got the right infrastructure can be the hardest piece. Making sure that your foundations are in the right place before you start on that journey, I would say.
And if anyone is wanting to, that's listening or watching us, and is wanting to, accelerate that GenAI transformation, would that be like the one key piece of advice they should take home?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Data is the key.
Yeah.
I should say that as a data product owner. Data is my life. So, of course, for me, it's the most important piece.
Well, I think it's the typical analogy of the tip of the iceberg. No, it's like the results of GenAI, but really there needs to be that foundation at the bottom, no?
Definitely.
I think that's why sometimes younger companies that are digitally native can implement these technologies quicker because like the iceberg it's not as deep as when you're running like a huge business as well. Yeah. But at the same time, huge businesses have like a lot of things like a brand, a way of working, etc., that make them, maybe be slower at implementing change, but be more consistent with time as well.
I think more consistent, and as I said at the beginning, AI, whilst it's relatively new, the approach is very similar to any new technology that we've ever embedded. So we're having such that legacy and that history as a company. We're very used to transforming and embedding new technologies. So I think we've just learned along the way of how to approach them.
I think that you're a living example of that, right? We've been through a lot of
through a lot of change.
Through a lot of change in the 23 years. Now the exciting question, or maybe scary, if you look at this year, but I think beyond, we can't really see more than 3 years ahead, I think. But how do you see like the role of GenAI evolving in the retail industry specifically?
I think it's only going to get utilised more. Companies are going to start seeing that successful implementation of generative AI. We've got many use cases where we want to start to really unlock, and now that we've built those foundations, it's going to accelerate that to being able to transform even further on our journey in the retail sector. So
watch out the very group for their upcoming innovations. So thanks a lot. It was a lot of fun to discuss GenAI. It was actually probably like the first proper GenAI episode of the FMCG guys. So I don't think it will be the last one. But it was really interesting, and also I think there's a lot of good takeaways on how to work internally with it, how to have some certain guardrails, how to work with external partners, that the importance of having the data in place and also making it relevant to the mainstream business, which I think is key when you're in a big company, well, in any company actually, to understand that you're part of like a whole business strategy and not only like your own silo, right? Well, thanks a lot.
Thank you for having me. It was really good to chat through.
Well, thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode of the FMCG guys. Have a great day.